this morning, and welcome to The Game Has Changed Forever edition of the OHIO podcast. Do us a big favor, and if you don't mind, and smash that like button. By all means, if you haven't already, please consider subscribing to the channel. It really does help us. Ring the bell, get notified. If you need to comment, please comment. At any point during this video, if something strikes your fancy, type it down in the comment section below. We'll do our best to try to respond to it. However, I'm currently in Chicago for work, and so therefore, that is why you're getting this video today. This is pre-recorded. This is what you call an evergreen, something that could fit beyond where you're at when you record it. So that is why we're doing this today. So that being said, guys, let's dive right into today's video. The game has changed forever. It's something that I've been chewing on ever since Ohio State lost to the team up north and then went on to win 4 straight in the college football playoff to win a national championship. Never before in the history of this rivalry has a team lost to their rival, that being Ohio State and or the team up north, and then gone on to win the national championship. Every time before this that the Maize and Blue won a national championship in the modern era, and every time Ohio State has won a national championship since 1942 and on, every time both those teams have won national championships, you can look at that season and they defeated one another and on their way to winning a national championship. This is the first time ever in the history of this rivalry where a team has lost the game and won a national championship. And Michigan fans would love to think that that devalues the national championship that Ohio State currently has. But I promise you, I guarantee you, in fact, I know it is a fact that if the roles were reversed and Michigan had lost that game and gone on to win 4 consecutive games and win the 2024 national championship, that they would be wearing hats like this. Oh, and making videos just like this one, while all of us Ohio State fans would be chirping at them saying, you may have won the national championship, but it doesn't count. It's not as good because you didn't beat the rival. It's a yin and yang, right? The roles would reverse. The fan bases would be saying exactly the same things to one another. Now, one of the things that the Michigan fans like to say is that their national championship in 2023 holds more value than Ohio State's does in 2024 because they went undefeated. However, times have changed, guys. Get with the times. There are going to be very, very few undefeated national champions in college football moving forward. If you need any more proof to that, all you have to do is look at a league called the NFL. The last time a team went undefeated through the regular season and then went all the way through the playoffs and won the Super Bowl, I believe, was the Miami Dolphins. The last time that happened. New England Patriots came close, but they lost in the Super Bowl to the New York Giants. Okay? I think it was Eli Manning that beat them. So we're living in a new era, and the more college football becomes NFL light, the more it's going to look like the NFL. And so at the end of the day, what's more important to say, let's take the Cleveland Browns and Pittsburgh Steelers fans here, okay? Because a lot of you are going to be able to relate to this. Would you as a Cleveland Browns fan, if I were to say to you, guys, you win the Super Bowl next year, but you lose to Pittsburgh twice because you play them 2 times in the regular season. You lose to Pittsburgh both times, but you go on to win the Super Bowl. Would you make that trade? And I promise you, 99.999% of Cleveland Browns fans would say, heck yes, I would make that trade. And Pittsburgh Steelers fans would look at it, and would they talk trash to the Cleveland Browns fans and say, yeah, but you didn't beat us? Sure they would. But if you ask them the exact same question, Steelers fans, you get to win the Super Bowl next year, but you have to lose to the Cleveland Browns twice. Would you make that trade? I promise you, again, 99.999% of Steelers fans are going to make that trade. This is the era in which we now live in college football. It is what it is. And so the question is this: does that devalue in any way the game at the end of the season? And I think the question to that is it does a little bit. It changes it. The equation has changed, right? Think of it in terms like this: Woody Hayes, right? Bo Schembechler, Woody Hayes and Bo Schembechler. Woody Hayes and Bo Schembechler, one of the reasons why they had so much hatred but yet respect for one another was because they had to beat each other in order to get the ultimate prize, which was a national championship. Even up into the BCS era, right? Let's take 2006, 1 versus 2. Ohio State and Michigan, 1 versus 2. Um, and it was an awesome game. And a lot of people felt that even though Ohio State won that game barely, Michigan should have gotten to be in the BCS championship game and played Ohio State again for a rematch. Um, I think it would have made for compelling television. However, it didn't happen because it was essentially a play-in game at that point. That was the BCS era. So even though it almost happened, it still didn't happen because it became a play-in game. Now let's move forward to the college football playoff where you have 4 teams in the college football playoff. Was there a chance that Ohio State and Michigan could end up playing each other for a second time? It almost happened again. Michigan and Ohio State were both in a 14 playoff in 2023, was it? I believe 2022 or 2023. I'm trying to remember here. Ohio State loses on a last second field goal miss to Georgia. You all know how that goes. I don't want to bring that up. I know that that's like opening up a fresh wound. And Michigan gets beat by TCU and kind of proves that they were cheating in a lot of ways because TCU changed up their signs and all of a sudden Michigan looked like a completely different football team. But I digress. That almost happened. If Ohio State beats Georgia and Michigan beats TCU, they're playing each other again for a national championship. But it didn't. There was a better chance that Ohio State and Michigan could play each other twice in the 14 playoff than ever before, but yet it still didn't happen. And now here we are in a 12-team playoff. The chances of Ohio State and Michigan playing in a college football playoff at some point after playing each other in the regular season, the chances of that happening eventually is very, very high. And so it's going to happen eventually. And when it does, that will be the most anticipated, biggest game between these two schools in the history of this rivalry. Even more so, I would say, than when they were 1 versus 2 back in 2006. So, has this era in which we now live in devalued the game? I think the answer is to a degree, maybe a little bit. Maybe it has just a little bit. Now, beyond that, there is a very real possibility that we might see Ohio State and Michigan play each other back to back weeks. Can you imagine a Big Ten where Ohio State and Michigan are the two best teams, and no matter what happens in the game, they're going to turn right around and play each other? And the Big Ten is they have the best a Big Ten championship game because they have the best two records. If that were to happen and you go into that last week's game and you already know, hey, Michigan and Ohio State, they both are undefeated in the Big Ten, and everybody else has got 2 losses, and or at least one team's got 1 loss, and and it doesn't matter because if they lost, let's say their one loss was Ohio State, or their one loss was to Michigan, and Ohio State beats Michigan, but Michigan won the head to head, they're still going. And you go into that final week in November knowing this already, that game is completely devalued. I would argue the coaches should probably not even play the starters. They literally should sit the starters and just say, let's let our second stringers go at this. Because why would you play that game the way you would with the idea that you're going to have to turn around and play exactly the same team in the same circumstances for higher stakes the following week? Why would you show anything to them as far as trick plays or any wrinkles to your offense? Because that seems ludicrous to me. And so one would have to make the argument that in that scenario, that the game at the end of the year in November in the regular season is completely devalued in that scenario. Now, if it's a play-in game to get to the Big Ten championship game, then yeah, it's not devalued at all. But do you follow what I'm saying here? The equation of the game has absolutely changed. And imagine this scenario. Ohio State and Michigan, uh, they play at the end of the year. Michigan beats us in the regular season, but we play again the following week for the Big Ten championship, and Ohio State beats Michigan, or vice versa in this scenario, whatever. And then you play each other again for a national championship for the rubber match. Holy smokes, you look at that scenario and you go all the way back to the regular season game, and that seems like peanuts compared to playing for all the marbles, right? So one would have to admit that the game at the end of the season has completely been changed and devalued in a way that none of us anticipated who have watched this rivalry evolve over the course of our lifetimes. And I know that this is going to be hard to swallow and seem very sacrilegious for me to say, but I think given the scenario and the era in which we now live, the environment that is college football, that even Woody Hayes and Bo Schembechler would look at this and say, yeah, the game has changed a little bit now. Because at the end of the day, what's more important? Beating your rival or winning a national championship? What's more important, Cleveland Browns, Pittsburgh Steelers fans? Beating your rival or winning a national championship? What's more important, Detroit Lions fans? Beating the Packers or the Bears or the Vikings or going and actually winning a Super Bowl? So, yeah, it's changed. The game has changed. And as a traditionalist, as someone who's been raised in this rivalry, as someone who's completely invested so much time, money, and my life to being an Ohio State fan, which means tangentially I've invested in this rivalry, it kind of stinks. It kind of hurts. But that's the reality of it. And as time marches on, and this new era of college football that we now live in becomes the norm, I think a lot of these emotions that we experience at the end of November becomes much more about online trolling and cannon fodder online than reality between the lines. And that's what stinks. That's what really kind of hurts a little bit as an Ohio State fan, is to just know that when it's all said and done, that rivalry at the end of the year that we um, we dream about, that we worry about, that we talk about for 365 days is just another game on the schedule now. That's the truth. That's the truth. Some people are going to say, I can already hear a lot of people are typing in the comments section below, Boggs, it's never going to be just another game. It's never just another game on the schedule. And I understand that when Scarlet and Gray and Maize and Blue play each other, you're right. It's not just another game, you know? It's got more to it than that, but it's not got the same meaning as it once did. And I think all of us man to man, when we sit down and we really think about it, would admit that that's true. It just doesn't mean the same as it once did. You know, that reminds me of today's Bible verse. I forgot one in yesterday's morning video. I apologize for that. So I'll read yesterday's today. Isaiah 41:10. Fear thou not, for I am with thee. Be not dismayed, for I am thy God. I will strengthen thee. Yea, I will help thee. Yea, I will uphold thee with thy right hand of my righteousness. What do you all think? Let me know what your comments. Let me know your comments down in the comment section below. I know that this is a topic that's tough to talk about. I know it's one that as fans we don't really want to talk about. And I know a lot of you are going to disagree with me, but I think if you stop and really analyze it like I just did, that you'd have to admit that the game has changed. The game definitely has changed. Now that one of us has lost and yet still went on to win a national championship, it means a little bit different now, doesn't it? And all of us old traditionalists don't like it. I understand that, but it is what it is. Let me know what you think down in the comment section below. Have a great Tuesday, everybody. Be kind to one another. I owe someone's OH. Sing Carmen, Ohio with all your heart. Till next time, go Bucks.